Greetings, Earthlings. So this will be a quick video because it's cold out here. Old man winter has arrived. So a quick review of my GC2610 behind me here. She's back from the tractor hospital. And then a quick review of what I did on the MF12. That's the little garden tractor I've been working on. I think that's put away for the winter at this point. So we'll go over those two tractors quickly. And then I have two other items to go over. One is for Ed at Redneck Ed YouTube channel. It's just a little humor. And then one thing to show Mike at Grampie's workshop. We wrote back and forth, chatted back and forth in his comments section on one of his videos. So I want to show him what I did to the siding on my house. I'll explain it later. So I'm going to swing this around and we'll get going. All right, so here's the GC2610. I brought her in to the tractor doctor and the tractor hospital a few weeks back. They called the other day and said she was ready. So today is Sunday, November 7th. I went to pick her up yesterday morning. So the weather forecast was cloudy but no snow. And then, of course, I got halfway there and it was snowing hard halfway back. So she got covered with salt from the road, which I'm not happy about. You can see the salt on her. There's none on the loader because I didn't have that attached to the tractor when I brought it to the tractor hospital. But you can see salt all over her, so I've got to wipe it down. It's all over everything here, just kicked all the way back. Up on the seat, all through here. So I've got to get going on this and clean her up before the salt does any harm. So some of you may know why I brought her to the tractor doctor. A few videos back I showed what I did. So I had a wiring harness running under the body up to some LED lights up here, and that wiring somehow got wrapped around the drive shaft, and up at the end here it damaged the oil seal where the drive shaft goes into the gearbox, transmission, whatever you call it. So it damaged the oil seal, so they had to replace that. It was quite a bit more than I was kind of quoted before I brought it in, but they also replaced, while they had the drive shaft out, they also replaced the fan belt up here in the engine because it was kind of worn, and they figured why not replace it while the drive shaft's out. So I agreed. So took care of that problem too. Like I said, more than I thought it was going to cost, but it sure did beat trying to do it myself. They had to pull the body off here to get down in there and get to that oil seal. That's not an easy job. They said they had trouble getting the body off, and I just didn't want to have to tackle that job on my own. So I gladly paid the fee that they charged me, which was probably about 2.5 times what they kind of quoted over the phone. It wasn't an official quote. I just told them what had to be done. They said, oh yeah, it should be about this much. I don't want to say what they told me. When they told me over the phone what they thought it would cost, I thought that was kind of low. So I'm not surprised that it cost more, but the price that I paid also included the replacing of the fan belt there. So I'm happy with it. So now I just have to get her cleaned up and get all that salt off of her. So that's item number one. As you can see, I'm glad to get it back because I got to take care of the snow out here. All right, so we'll move on to the MF12. And here's the MF12. Let me show you what I had to do. Kind of squeeze. This is supposed to be my workshop. I'll explain that in a minute. So the MF12 was parked right over here, but I had to get it out of the way because I had to get this tractor in out of the weather and get the Mustang parked. So to move those around, I had to move the MF12. So I was playing musical vehicles, and that MF12 has to be out of the way for the winter so I can get the tractor in and out to clear snow. The GC2610, that is. And then my daughter had some stuff to store, so that is in here temporarily. So I tucked all that stuff in there. And then some of my stuff that's going to the dump. Tucked all that in there first, then put the MF12 here. So there's really not much room to work on it now anyway. So let me get to what I did. So in my last video, I think I was a little bit frustrated. And so I walked away from the tractor that day, left it overnight. I came back the next day and just thought through the basic steps. What do I need to do? I was kind of in a rush, just trying to get it started before winter. I wanted to hear it run before I put it away for the winter. So I was kind of taking shortcuts and hoping for the best. That didn't happen. So I thought, okay, I should go back to the basics and start checking connections. So that's what I did. So if you remember, well, here's some wiring I replaced. So in one of my videos, I showed this long cable here that went from the solenoid to the starter. And it was worn out here. Come on. I threw some tape over the spot that was worn out just temporarily so I could use that still. But this was way too long. So I started checking connections. You can see right there I replaced the hot lead going from the battery down to the solenoid. I replaced that. I replaced the ground or earth, depending on where you live. Replaced the earth cable as well, ground cable. And then down in there, I'm going to call it ground cable. So the ground cable was over, I think maybe in that hole there, mounted there. But as you can see, it was just corroded. And I couldn't clean that up. So I got a wire brush, and there was another hole right there. I cleaned up around that hole. You can see some of the clean metal there. Doesn't look too good around here, but there is a clean connection under that copper there. So I cleaned up around that hole, mounted the ground cable there, brought it up here. So that's all new. This hot lead, let me show you that. So when I started checking the wiring and the connections, I found that. So there was power only going through a few, come on, focus. Power only going through a few strands there. Most of those are broken off. So I thought, well, that might be a little bit of a problem. This end I think was okay. Am I? Yeah, that end wasn't too bad. But so I replaced that, replaced the ground cable, replaced the cable, like I said, this long cable, got rid of that, got a proper length on the cable going from the solenoid down to the starter. You'll notice the starter's out. I'll get to that. So there's the new hot lead coming in. I cleaned up all of these connections in here, took everything off, took all the wires off, all the nuts off, cleaned all those connections. So all new wiring from the battery to ground to the solenoid, from the solenoid to the starter. All clean new connections. So I was hoping that would solve the issue. So I need to back up a little bit. So one of the last times I tried to start the engine, I think I'd mentioned that I let it crank for a little bit. I let it crank for a few seconds, stop, crank it again, and then I noticed one of the last times I cranked, or probably the last time I cranked the starter, I noticed I was standing over on the other side, over on this side of the tractor, and I noticed a little bit of puff of smoke coming up. Went up that way. I figured that's not good. So anyway, I moved on and replaced all those wires. And if those of you that watched the prior video, you could, if you remember, I was having trouble getting a good connection with the tester here, getting it to read. Well, what I found was this ground connection here, it wasn't good in there. I moved it around, got a good connection. So I was checking all my connections. I had 12 to 13 volts everywhere. Everything was good. Checked the battery. Some of my 50, 60-year-old experience was coming back to me. So, as I said, I left this overnight, came back, used my noggin, and started relying on what I did know. So I checked the battery. That was good. Checked the ground, that was good. Checked this, it was good. I had power down to the solenoid. I had power coming out of the solenoid, coming down to the starter. Had 12 volts right down to the starter. But the starter wouldn't crank. The solenoid was clicking, but nothing with the starter. So, based on all of that, I know I've got power all the way down to here, all the way down to the starter. I'm thinking maybe something happened to the starter. The starter was turning over. Where did I put it? Right here. And then I got that puff of smoke, and now nothing. So I think this starter might need some more work. And everything, as I mentioned in the prior video, everything I can find points to a squared off starter for that engine. So I was hoping I could find a round starter like this to buy and install in place of this one. I even looked at, thought I saw a part number. Here's a 328. I was trying to find, I ran that number, something up here. I don't know what that is. But anyway, I did everything I could think of to try to find a starter like this online. Found a similar one, but the connection here for the hot wire was down at on this side. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not. But otherwise, it looked like this. There were a few of those online. Looked just like this, but this was down here. So I haven't taken that apart yet. It's just been too cold. So if I get a warm day, or maybe I'll bring it inside, bring it into my cellar and work on it, take it apart again and see if there's some damage in there. So I think the problem was in that starter. So I may get to it soon. It may be springtime before I get to it. So that's where I stand on the old MF12. I think that's everything. Yeah, pretty sure that's everything. So, all right, we'll get on to the next topic. And so for Ed at Redneck Ed, I had done a video, I don't know when that was, maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago, and I had an issue with the tractor here. I think I was trying to figure out something with the hydraulics on the loader arms. And I was wearing a worn out, ripped up, old flannel shirt. And for some reason, Ed remembered that. And on one of his recent videos, he had, I think he had on an old red flannel shirt from 1997. And then he showed a photo from, I forget when it was, quite a while ago. I think he was up on a roof. Maybe he had reshingled the roof or something with his son. So anyway, he had an old red flannel shirt. So I always loved red flannel shirts. And I had one years ago, similar to what Ed was wearing in his video. So I just want to show that to Ed. The video, I'll show it here. Did I say video? I meant photo. I have a... Ed did a video with his old shirt from 1997. I had a red flannel shirt from back in the 80s, and I wore it for several years till it was worn out. The one that I had on in my prior video, it was a sort of a white and tan flannel shirt. That was only about 10 or 15 years old. Not as old as Ed's. But anyway, here's my my red flannel shirt from early 1980s. So this photo was taken in January or February of 1983. So I just wanted to show that red flannel shirt to Ed. Just thought it was a little humorous. All right, so now we'll move on to the final item. So here's a little scenery for you while I explain the next topic. So Mike at Grampie's workshop recently built the Massey Motel. That's the tractor shed for his awesome GC2610, which is the brother to my GC2610. So Mike was trying to protect the, I think it's texture 111 siding on the Massey Motel. He's trying to figure out ways to protect the lower end of the siding from the elements so it doesn't rot as quickly. So I made a comment that I replaced all this board and batten siding on my house several years ago, and I wanted to show him what I did to make repairs easier. There's only going to be so much I can show you because the snow's in the way. Under that snow starting there, going down that way, I've got hay bales along there to keep the cold air out from entering the house. This is just this is an old farmhouse, and this section here, the red section, is just set on stones. There's no proper foundation. And there's a term for those stones. I forget what it is. But anyway, it's just set on stones, and the cold air blows through there in the wintertime. So I usually put hay bales there and then let the snow pile up too to act as insulation. And then later in the year, I use my tractor and loader and get the snow away from the house. So let's see if I can find, oh boy, I can't find it. It's not here. It's behind the hay. All right, hold on. I'll see if I can dig something out. No, I can't dig anything out there. Let's see. Well, I can kind of see it. So I'll explain it and then it'll make sense. You see that joint right there? So what I did on this siding, these are all individual boards with the battens. And I replaced all this close to 10 years ago now. Now here I ran the boards all the way down. And I forget why I did it there, but I ran the boards all the way down. And then over here, I ran a 12-inch board horizontally. So if that board rots out, if the weather gets to the lower end of the wood there and starts rotting it, all I've got to do is remove the battens, pull that 12-inch board off, and put another board in. Then I don't have to replace all the siding. And that's what happened to this siding. I don't know how long the siding's been on there. So we bought the property in 2000, and all that siding. The old siding was there. So I don't know how old those boards were. So I ripped all those off, well, probably 8 or 10 years ago, and replaced everything there. And I didn't want to have to go through all that again, so I just put this 12-inch horizontal board along the bottom there, and then ran the battens all the way down. Then what I did too is that board and all the battens, I painted with primer on all sides, all 4 sides, and at both ends. Primered it, painted it all, so I protected it as much as I could. Did the same thing with that 12-inch board at the bottom there, the horizontal board. Painted that on all sides, primer and paint, so there was no wood exposed. And you can see here, that was a cat clawing at that. So anyway, I wanted to show Mike that's what I did. It's not a perfect solution, but at least if the wood rots out, it's just replacing those battens and that 12-inch long, 12-inch wide, it's 1x12 horizontal board at the bottom. Whole lot easier than replacing all the siding. All right, folks, so that's it for today. It's cold out here. I'm going to go in and get warmed up. So this was kind of a video about nothing really, I guess. But I'm glad to have the GC2610 back. The only problem is that I still have to prepare her for winter. I've got to change the oil. Now I have to wipe all the salt off it, change the oil, lube everything up, and then work on the 3-point hitch snowblower, get that all lubed up, so I am way behind in everything I need to do. So that's it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for watching.